Welcome to the Own It Powercast, the place to be when you get serious about making big changes and accelerating growth in your life and in your relationships. Finally create the life you've always wanted, living life on your own terms. Learn how to take your fear and turn it into powerful choices that will create sustained change. Now your host, Mary Baker.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Own It Powercast, a place where you can come to get what you need to move yourself forward. As you know, my name is Mary Baker, and I'm here to give you the education, the tools, and the motivation to identify exactly what's in your way today and what you can do about it. So let's get to episode 24, Finding Your Voice, What Assertiveness Really Looks Like. So last week we talked a lot about what assertiveness is not. It's not aggressive, and it's certainly not passive-aggressive behavior. This week we're going to explore what assertiveness really looks like then. But first, a big thank you to those of you who have been connecting with me this week and letting me know how much the podcasts are really helping you do the work. There's just something about listening and learning and re-listening and learning that you really appreciate. So thank you for letting me know that. It's good to know that this podcast is helping you make some big changes, because that's what it's all about. That's why we're doing this. So remember last week when I talked about how assertiveness in my book is all about making your insides match your outsides, for you to be more congruent and genuine, to voice your inner truth like you keep hearing me talk about. Well, that's the best definition for it, I think, so we're going to stick with that. I think assertiveness can be really misunderstood. Assertiveness is not aggressive. Aggressive is trying to put up a defensive front like you're a tough guy, but that's defending against connecting. Assertiveness is connecting in healthier ways. Remember, it's not doormat, it's not asshole, it's connecting. It's respectful of yourself and them, so I just wanted to point that out. Just like self-esteem, it is so misunderstood. Okay, so here are a couple things that I want to say about assertiveness and just to remind ourselves of some of these true statements that we have to remember so that we remain in the right healthy mindset around assertiveness. And again, get rid of a lot of the cognitive distortions that we might have. One of them is life should have choices for you. You can take care of yourself in your relationships. You really can. We all need to. And I'm saying this because I think in relationships, especially when I work with couples, I see a lot of fear and a lot of fear-based behavior. And when I can work with them to get rid of a lot of that fear-based behavior, it is amazing how the relationship gets so much better. And they report feeling more emotional safety and able to express themselves in genuine ways. So that's really important. So life should not be motivated by fear. You know, fear-based behavior, like we've been talking about in these episodes, don't be mad at yourself if you have it, or if you are with someone who has it, because those are survival skills that had to be installed in order to cope. But we know now how destructive they can be in grown-up relationships, because confidence is the opposite. Confidence means choice-based behaviors, means you detach from outcomes. You're not trying to manipulate how the other person sees you. You detach and you let go from their choices, and you're in choice yourself. It's about good boundaries, and it's about letting go. And if you need to, go back and revisit those boundary episodes, because boundaries go hand in hand with assertiveness. The other thing is that you have the right to say no to anything that isn't feeling comfortable for you. When you feel you're not ready, or it's not safe, or it's not a good time for you, you have that right. And you can detach from what other people think and feel about that, because, like I tell people, their reality, the fact that that is frustrating for them or upsetting for them, is totally valid. But it's separate and just as valid and no less or more valid from your valid reality that you just don't want to do it right now. See how both can be true? They just can't coexist at this moment, and that's okay. That's where we get into negotiating. I work with a lot of clients where no one taught them how to negotiate or even just what that looks like in a healthy way. For you, it's about how you feel, and you should not feel afraid, and you should not feel like you're going against yourself in order to accommodate someone else. Remember, when we do that, we can't be mad at them. We're doing that. And you have a right to all of your feelings. Your feelings are all valid, just like theirs are. No one has a right to ever tell you what you feel, or that there's anything wrong or crazy with what you feel. And most people don't come out and say that outright, unless they say, that's crazy. Yeah, you don't want to hear that. That's not okay. It's kind of shitty and manipulative. That just is code for it. They can't handle what you're saying that you feel. Only you get to determine what you feel. If you think it's over the top, if you think it's crazy, that's fine. You can take a look at that, but no one has a right to tell you what you should feel or how you should feel. And the other thing is, you have a right to make mistakes, as do they. Healthy relationships don't involve a lot of shame and blame. Rather, it's about each of us taking responsibility for ourselves, right? And focusing on the boundaries and the solution, not on people screwing up, or that there's anything wrong with you or anything wrong with them as people. I want to remind you that you can be healthier than those around you too. You don't have to stop all your healthy behaviors when you come home and walk in the door just because they can't handle it, or maybe they haven't learned healthier behaviors yet. Keep doing yours. Remember, like we talk about our subconscious, how adaptive it is. Others around you are going to slowly adapt to healthier behavior, even if they balk about it for weeks at first. It's okay. Just keep doing healthier. Clean up your side of the street. Eventually, you are going to rub off on people. Depending on how stubborn they are and entrenched in their caca. It may take a while, but you're doing them a favor. You're doing them a favor by being responsible, at least for how you're going to behave. And you're modeling and you're opening the door for them to be healthier too. And think about all the benefits for them. You have a right to terminate conversations with people who make you feel put down. No one needs to tolerate abuse, and no one should. Shaming and putting you down is abusive, period. End of story. Not okay. Never, ever, ever a good reason for that. There's no productive purpose for that. Doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. There's no excuse for it. It is unacceptable. And I want you to remember that. You can tease out that they're upset, that they're freaking out, that they're melting down, that they're leaking out their grief work sideways because they haven't dealt with their shit. But it doesn't mean they have, therefore, the right to treat you that way. Separate it out real quick and let them know that. Look, I know you're angry, but you have no right to treat me this way. And if you continue screaming at me, I'm leaving the house. Giving them a loving choice also is a great growth opportunity for them and for you. You're teasing out the vulnerable, right? Look, I know you're hurting. Because that should be acknowledged. Because the whole deal is they don't know how to just express that, right? Here's the math. They think they have to lash out and act out because they struggle to be vulnerable for very good reasons. So we want to validate, look, I know you're hurting. But separate it out from their behavior. It's parenting 101, right? You do this with your kids. Look, I know you're pissed, but you can't hurt your brother. We just got to do it in our own relationships with other grown-ups. It's important to set limits and take care of yourself. It's your responsibility to do so. It's not theirs. Owning it means not waiting around for other people to rescue us like we've been talking about. Rescue us from having to do the very difficult, vulnerable thing. It means growing up on the inside. It means grabbing some maturity and some courage. Being assertive can be vulnerable. It's more emotionally honest, and it's a lot more specific. Remember we talked before about how people will throw out vague stuff because they're scared. If they make it specific, that puts you in the moment and it puts you in the spotlight for people to shame you, talk you out of your reality, yell at you, just be unsafe. And so remember that. It takes courage. But it's your job to take care of yourself, not anyone else's, and you can do it. And you can be angry at someone you love, and they can be angry at you too. It doesn't mean you don't love each other. In fact, we don't get pissed at people we don't care about. We just don't. It doesn't mean you hate them. It just means something happened that's not okay, and you're mad. I know this sounds like 101, but we can forget this. If we're in toxic relationships, we can quickly forget this. This can get so distorted. You can grow up in a family that couldn't tolerate people's feelings, and somehow you learn this. And you can take care of yourself no matter the circumstances. You're going to feel so much better as you do. And here's the thing. Other people are going to have to eventually have more respect for you. You know, being assertive is all about taking responsibility. It's about taking responsibility for what we need. We look to ourselves to voice what we need, whether it's their time, their attention, we need their help with something, etc., etc. It's our responsibility around what we're choosing, what our boundaries are to be. What are our policies? What are our values? What are our defining boundaries? You know, what's our bottom line and why? That's our job. It's our job to figure out what they are and live them out, even when it's hard. That's not on other people, and that's a really big concept. If you grew up in a family where everybody put their stuff on someone else, this might be a little bit of a learning curve, even though if you understand it intellectually, putting it into practice might take some time. So if you struggle with that, it's not your fault. You just want to commit to really owning that, reminding yourself. It's your responsibility to act maturely in a calm and grounded manner before you open your mouth. If you can't do that, you're not ready to have a dialogue about it yet. If there's any there still, you're still pissed off, you're still a little twisted about what's going on, it's not time to sit down and ask for what you need. You can just say, hey, I need to think about this. I'll get back to you. I need a timeout. Going back and being emotionally honest and grounded and peaceful is so much more respectful of them. Remember, they need to feel just as emotionally safe as you do. So we really want to take care of that. You know, we don't need to be splashing that stuff on other people. That's for us to figure out. So as you can see, it's all about being emotionally honest. Like telling people what it's really about, what's really going on for us, and not beating around the bush. It's about mutual respect. You're respecting yourself, you're asking them for respect, and the way you are articulating what you need and what you won't do is in a healthy, respectful way. There's I statements. There's no you statements in any of this, except for when you say, when you do that, it hurts my feelings and I'd like you to stop. That's the only time we mention them, briefly. The focus, though, is on ourselves. Assertiveness means zero sarcasm, no snarky, no double meaning, no innuendo, nothing. Don't make it slippery. No passive-aggressive behavior, therefore, right? No manipulation. No being indirect, beating around the bush, giving some kind of hidden message. Make it very clear, own what you're saying, make it emotionally honest, make it an I statement. I mean, I think if you keep the focus on you, it's going to be a lot easier. The only time that people mess this up is if they keep the I statement going while playing the victim, right? Like, I didn't get any sleep last night because of you. Oh, wow. Okay. So, yeah, putting your stuff on someone else. People can get slick and still try to use the I statement and do that. You know if you're doing that. Just don't. You wouldn't want that done to you. Don't do it to others. It's about being direct. It's about being honest. And again, we're just telling them about us. Ball goes to them. They're in a total place of choice, as we want to be, and they can decide. This is all about letting go of control of the outcome, as you can see. They have the same right to be heard as you do as well. So just like with boundary work, it'll hit you eventually that, oh yeah, that's right. Other people have a right to be assertive with me too. And sometimes some anxiety can come up around that, and that's okay. Just remind yourself, this is about equanimity and it being mutually respectful, no double standards. So a lot of detachment and empathy, right? Part of learning how to be more mature in our communication also means having compassion for the other person. Now, remember, that's going to be hard for you to do unless you've been working on compassion for yourself, which is part of, becoming assertive means we have to honor who we are and have empathy for our feelings and what we need and what our boundaries are and what we won't tolerate. So just give that some thought. If you struggle in some areas, just kind of write that down as a to-do for this month to focus in on. So let's go there. Let's ironically talk about listening first before we talk about expressing. Because I think that, again, we're going to have to learn how to do both if we really want this to be mutually respectful and connecting. So what does assertive listening look like? It's not about just focusing on what you need. Initially, when you start out wanting to be assertive and tell people where to go and all that stuff, and people come up with a lot of anxiety-based, well, I'm going to tell them exactly what I need, damn it. That's okay. I just don't want you to stay there. Because we all really initially just want to be heard. We want to get our point across, and we often forget, oh yeah, what about them? So that's why I wanted to talk today about assertive listening as well, because you probably struggle with that part of it if you also struggle with expressing yourself. Because building nurturing relationships is how we build trust. And if this is a loving relationship you do want to keep in your life and you want it to get better, we want to work on that. I think trust in communication is foundational because I think it allows for everything else. And without it, nothing else can really grow. What we do moment by moment with them, to hold that in a high regard, might influence greatly what can happen in the future with them. The moments we build now are what create trust in the future. Good relationships require good listening. We all know this. We all just aren't very good at it, me included. We think we are, but there's always room to grow. And I like to think I want to aspire every day that I get up to just get a little better at it. It's a fun challenge for ourselves. Because here's the thing, if you really want other people to hear you, then they deserve the same. Equal rights are so important. Assertive listening means focusing on what is truly being said and not getting distracted, rather than about how you're going to respond. So slow it down. Try to slow down your breathing if you're really anxious. And just remember, the more they feel heard by you, their defenses are going to go down, not up. So therefore, they're going to be a lot more willing, right, to listen to what you might need or what you have to say. We're not all very different from each other, and we tend to forget that. Listen to the entire message. Take in their body language, take in what you know about them and what the objective issue is, and trust your intuition. Too often we're so busy reacting or thinking how we're going to react that we miss some great material that actually can lead to solutions. Listening to the thoughts and feelings of needs that they're expressing can lead to a better connection, better problem solving. So even if you don't agree with their point of view, try to give the person respectful attention, ask thoughtful questions, don't assume, don't jump to conclusions, or if you do apologize, if you feel yourself getting kind of, there's probably some fear going on, like, oh crap, I can't believe they think that, or I can't believe they voted that way. Don't react. Problems are solved and situations de-escalate a lot faster if we can get to what's really the issue at hand, stick to the issue at hand, and focus on the positive solution. Use I statements, right? Not like you better, you always, you never, you're a whatever. That is immediately going to put people on the defensive. Go back and apologize and say, look, I'm sorry. What I should have said was, I really can't go tomorrow night. And that wasn't about you. See how you own it? Maybe you say, so I hear you saying you're unhappy about your workload in the house right now. Would you like to talk about it? Maybe we can figure something out. Do you see how much better that feels and how much better that sounds? So better than saying, I can't believe you're upset or what are you pissed about? You can say, hey, I see you're really upset. I need to get work done right now, but can we talk about this afternoon? Do you see how I used empathy, right? I see you're upset. But my boundary was, just because you're upset doesn't mean I can drop everything that I need to be doing and take care of your feelings. I'm acknowledging it and giving them a choice to talk about it later. That I just can't do it right now. Maybe you would say, I'd like it if we could try to negotiate something that would work for both of us. Again, two things there. You're acknowledging that it can't just be working for you. It's not all about you. It's about them too. And people are, we're all selfish in that regard, are more likely to want to get on the train with you and solve this problem if it's going to benefit them. I'd like to discuss this with you tonight. Again, there's no acting out, there's no leaking out, but the boundary is, I want to talk about it. I'm not going to put this under the rug. Better listening, as we all know, try to remember to reflect back what they're saying. Try to pull the meaning, like what's really going on for them. For example, what if your partner comes to you tonight really upset saying, I don't think it's fair, I'm handling all the Christmas stuff, I'm all stressed out, and you don't seem to care. The wrong response would be, well, since you decided to take all that on by yourself and not talk about it, I assumed you wanted to do it alone. Manipulation. You should have asked me. Shame me, blame me, right? Technically, should they have asked you? Absolutely. Do you need to make them feel like crap about that? No. Better response. Sounds like you're really frustrated because you see yourself doing all the work and you want to know if I could partner with you better around Christmas. You're right, and I'm so sorry. I have been so distracted with this damn thing at work. And I admit, because I know deep down, I have not initiated any convos about Christmas or offered to help. Can we sit down and figure that out now? Do you see how you just showed empathy for where they were? You didn't have to get defensive. You may have felt defensive, but you still didn't have to go there. In fact, you fessed up. It's okay to fess up, people. This is where change happens in relationships. When we finally have the maturity to say, you know what? I think you're right. Or that part of it, yeah, you're right. See, in this scenario, there's a couple different things happening. The other person did not ask for what they needed. Your partner did not sit down and say, okay, what are we doing about Christmas? This is what I'm willing to do, but I'm not willing to do it all by myself. There was your part where you kind of let it happen and ignored your responsibility. You knew it was Christmas time. So both people kind of blew it there, right? And that is why I'm a big fan of having planning meetings with partners once a week. Okay, what do we have going on and what are we wanting to do about it? So stay calm. How confident and calm you are speaks volumes about how well you can manage conflict, even if you're shaking in your shoes on the inside, and how available you are to truly hear them and work towards solutions. Even if you have a partner who's really emotionally immature, they still need to experience from you that it can be healthier. If you want healthier with them, be healthier. So some key points here, trying to remember to use empathy while maintaining our healthy boundaries. Recipe for a good relationship. We got to focus on the real issues and take the personal out of it. Keep it on the solution, not about the people. People are human. We're all human. We're all going to have bad days. We're all going to be frustrated. Keep it on the positive solution. Try to think of working with others rather than against. Try to collaborate as best you can. So this is all about boundaries. It's about boundaries with your own behavior, boundaries with other people, letting other people know what our boundaries are. I mean, that's what assertiveness is, right? But it's also about respecting theirs. Keeping things separate in a healthy way means no one's manipulating and no one's responsible for each other's feelings or each other's choices or any of that stuff. So I think by now we've done a pretty good job of kind of laying out what assertiveness, doesn't look like we talked about last week, and kind of what it looks like. But a lot of people struggle with knowing how to actually do it. Because here's the thing. If you grew up in a family where there was aggressive and or passive-aggressive behavior, how are you going to know what healthy looks like? So I want to give some examples here. And these are not all of them. Come up with something that feels good for you, but I just want to get this started for you so you have a sense of what healthier looks like. A lot of I statements. Remember, keeping the focus on you, saying things like, I would like you guys to go get the groceries out of the car, please. Thank you. I would like it if we could have a date night this week. I would like a raise. I'd like some time for myself. Can we talk about how that can happen today? It would be great if you could use the positive opposite, like, please stop doing that, as opposed to, it would be wonderful if you could do the opposite, right? It would be great. It would be wonderful. We all want to be good people, right? We want to be redeemed. We want to feel like we can succeed in other people's eyes. It's not all negative. It's not all awful. So pick the positive opposite of what you don't like what they're doing and let them know that. It would be wonderful if you could be on time tonight, because I really want to get there on time. I can do that tomorrow, but I don't think I'm going to be able to get to that tonight. Do you see the embedded boundary? Not tonight. Not tonight. But I can do it tomorrow. So that offers a solution, as opposed to just reacting and saying, I don't have time to do that right now. Why are you asking me? That doesn't feel good. That's far enough. You're letting the other person know they're overstepping. I really want you to pay your share in the future, or I'm just not going to be able to go out to dinner anymore. That gives them a heads up, gives them time to choose, look at their behavior, figure out what they want to do. Choose is imperative. That doesn't work for me. I love this one. It is so benign on one hand, but firm on the other. And it doesn't say anything about what they're asking and whether that's okay, or whether they should be asking, or whether they should need or feel that, because that is not our business. It also helps us to not emotionally react like, I can't believe you're asking me that right now. You just say, you know what, that doesn't work for me. So make sure your voice is kind of benign and calm and kind, and just neutral, I think, is a good way to look at it. It doesn't have to be wrapped around the axle of all these strong emotions. It really doesn't. When you do that, it really hurt, and I'd like you to not do that again. You're letting them know how it makes you feel. And like we've talked about, most people don't want to be the hurting party. They don't want to be hurting other people. I know you don't want to be hurting other people on purpose. Who does? Thanks, but I'm not interested. So the thanks is letting them know there's nothing wrong with you asking me. I'm just not interested. That can be about you. That's your thing. It's not my thing. Thanks, but I really just can't make that a priority right now. So maybe next year you can ask me to volunteer, right? But just right now, it's just not my priority. Thanks, but I need some time to myself right now. Keep your responses brief, too. Please don't feel like you have to go into this long soliloquy of why you need time for yourself right now. If you feel like you have to do that, sit down with that and say, what's going on? We usually only feel like we have to backpedal and provide all this rationalization and validation of why we feel because we have relationships in the past where that got messed up. This is a need-to-know basis. If you want the other person to really know, like maybe your best friend, you plan something, but now you have to back out, you really may want them to know the why, right? Because they deserve it, it's appropriate for the situation, you want to tell them. Just don't feel like you're doing that out of fear. Like they won't believe me, they won't take me seriously if I don't tell them the whole backstory. No, that's a whole nother problem if you're feeling that. This is so important. I can't give it time it deserves right now. Can we make an appointment to talk? I love that. It's honoring that this is a big thing they've brought to you, and you want to give it the time, because you know what happens. If you don't, you try to squeeze it in right now, you're going to be distracted, impatient. You guys aren't going to be able to give that conversation the time and the focus that it deserves. So it can feel really yucky for the other person and stressful for you. It's okay to split it out and say, this is really, really important and meaningful, but I just can't do that right now. This next one I think is fabulous. Like, my values are, my policy is, I just don't let people treat me that way, or, I don't lend my car out to people, and I really like to pay you for that table and chair set because I like to have boundaries in my relationships. It's going to be really hard. People can't touch this once you've done the I've decided. The I've decided for my own why is very powerful. Now, you're still going to get people who want to react to this, but most people just get kind of quiet and say, oh, okay. They respect it. And they have more respect for you instantaneously, and you have more respect for yourself. And of course, if you're not sure what your policies are, take some time this week and really sit down and think about that. Like, what are you willing to do and why? We all have to have our bottom lines. We have to have our policies, our values. Do the if-then. If you choose to continue to yell at me, then I'm going to choose to walk out the door right now because I'm not going to allow this to happen. You can be real positive, too. You can say, I really like it when you're on time. It's great. I'm really concerned about the week you've been having. Do you want to talk about it? This is what I really love to have between us. I like it when we do the dishes together. It's a lot more fun. I've decided. I've decided is not anything about them. Maybe asking them, what have you decided? Or I want to hear your thoughts. Or what do you think we should do? Conversely, you can say, you know what, I disagree with you. I actually see it this way. I understand you may not agree with me, but I'd like you to respect my point of view. Do you see how it's both? You're not asking them to have to agree with you, but you're just asking for respect and acceptance that that's where you are. Very big difference that a lot of people mess up in communication. The fear around providing empathy and respect is that we're supposed to agree with them. No, you don't have to agree with anybody. But I think you want to give them the same respect that you would like to have for your opinions. So these are just some examples of how to express yourself in healthier ways without having to lash out, without having to yell, to shame or blame or swallow your feelings or shut down. I hear so many clients say to me that they're actually embarrassed that they have to learn this as adults, right? But don't be. It's not your fault. If no one taught you or no one modeled it, how were you supposed to know how to do this? Look at this stuff like learning language or culture, right? We absorb what we grow up in and therefore we're immersed in. You're just learning a new language. You're learning a new culture. It takes immersion, it takes practice, and it takes time to screw it up and do it again, and it takes time. But there's more to assertiveness than just what we say and how we say it. Assertiveness also means confidence in your body. So good eye contact, not averting someone's gaze, not looking at the floor, not staring at someone either, but just, appropriate eye contact. If you struggle with that, there's good reasons. Kids learn to avert their gaze when they're being shamed or screamed at or belittled or whatever growing up. It's a self-protective, right? Because when you look at someone, it's pretty vulnerable. You're really connecting. Was the eyes or the window to the soul is the phrase. That's a true thing. So kind of take a look at that and notice, do you do good eye contact? Are there people where you don't want to do eye contact? That might be because they're not terribly safe. But if you're going to be taken seriously, you got to look at them directly and look them in the eye. So that's a great thing to practice. Practice with friendly, loving, kind, safe people first, please. So you can get used to it and grow your confidence around that, okay? Serene facial expressions, like how calm do you look? What's your body language? Are you standing there with your arms crossed and you're rolling your eyes and all of that? We want to look at what's grown up, what is open and connecting and mature. You don't have to guard yourself anymore. You don't. That is old, childlike behavior. And you needed to do it then, but you don't have to do it now. You can just be there, calm, grounded in your truth, right? Because you've decided. Ain't nobody going to take you out of that decision unless you let them. So how approachable and confident do you look, right? Think about other people in your life that you notice. How approachable are they? What is their body language? Emulate what you see out there if you want to change how you do it now. Now, your shoulders should be square yet relaxed. You should be sitting up straight or standing tall. Just finding your own way of being approachable yet confident. Okay, so let's talk about what are some of the benefits of assertiveness. Some of them are Captain Obvious, some you may not realize or even have thought about too much. The first one is, it's because you demonstrate to yourself and others that you have self-respect. So it increases your self-confidence and your self-worth. A lot of people forget that. How you witness yourself dealing with other people and taking care of yourself in your relationships is extremely important. You can't feel confident about yourself if you're not being assertive, is my view. You're also sending the message that you are deserving and worthy of said respect. You matter. You matter. And remember, hiding your truth is only going to cause anxiety and depression. And that's why I think insides matching outsides is so crucial to feeling good. Being assertive is beneficial because it means being genuine and real with other people, which is foundational to good, substantive relationships, real relationships where we can talk about real things. I had someone tell me the other day, it was just so sad. He's like, I called my mom and it was such a surface conversation. He goes, I can't have vulnerable, connecting conversations with her because she hangs up the phone. She can't handle it. How sad is that? So think about it in terms of the quality of our relationships. We want to work on that because that's what life is about. Being assertive can really diffuse potential conflicts. If you look back over your life and think about all the stupid fights that happened, how possibly could they have been resolved if you had approached that person and said, hey, I noticed this is going on. Can we sit down and kind of heal this? Let's figure this out. Just real positive. When you're assertive, when you are emotionally honest, remember it opens the door for other people too. And if you have kids, this is so, so crucial, right? Because we've been talking about if you didn't grow up with that and you didn't learn it, the same thing is happening with your kids. Don't freak out. Just look at that as some motivation to really model it for them. Model it with your partner. Model it with them. Actually talk about it. Have the conversation that most families don't. Talk about why emotionally honest conversation matters when they're old enough, to obviously talk about that stuff. If they're younger, just show it to them. You will be doing them such a huge favor. Oh my gosh. Being assertive clears the air, cuts down the possibility of later drama and conflict because everything's on the table. We're dealing with things directly. There's no hidden agenda. And remember, whatever we don't deal with directly will come up. It'll come up in that argument 2 weeks from now where each of you has your kitchen sink full of crap to throw at each other. It's going to come out one way or the other. My preference is it's this way. When you do it in a healthy and positive way, you are actually showing them respect. Not just getting their respect, you're showing them respect. And it can help create emotional trust, which is everything. And when you learn to approach conflict in a healthy way, it increases your self-confidence that you don't have to avoid conflict. That is a big thing. Let me say that again. As you practice being assertive, you are actually practicing risking conflict because the other person could fly off the handle. They could get pissed off. They could be upset. This is learning how to do conflict in a healthy way. That's why it's so important. Everyone gets to stay in a place of choice, I think, is my big premise for healthy negotiating. You let them know what you're willing to do and not willing to do. Ball goes to them. Hopefully they're doing the same. That ball goes back and forth till you guys figure it out. And no matter how many times you have to have the conversation, you just keep at it. Don't come out of the jury room until you have a verdict. We do that in court. Why don't we do that at home? It's so important to remember that Assertive behavior, however, is not a guarantee. And here's where I want to mention there are some really toxic places out there and people. This isn't going to work with everyone. And as you'll see, the way the math works is the healthier they are, the easier this is going to be. This doesn't always go over well. It's not a guarantee you're going to work things out. If someone is really toxic, really immature, if they're using those kind of situations, it's going to be difficult. Because here's the thing, just because you're being calm and you're being firm and you're being respectful does not mean everyone else will be too, so know that going in. Chances are, though, when you're assertive with healthier people, you're more likely to get what you want than if you're aggressive or passive. So don't use that warning to say, well, I don't want to be assertive. No, you need to do it anyway. But there are times when the other person's just so damn unhealthy, it's still going to go south, and that's okay. Because there's your reality. That's what you're looking at. Maybe in the past, you would be passive, then blow up, an awful fight, but nothing ever changed. This is different. Because when you're assertive, you're letting people know exactly where you stand, exactly what you're going to do if they don't quit that nasty behavior, and you're going to follow through. Because you can't be assertive without following through. Do not put ultimatums out there that you're not willing to pull the trigger on. You know that by now. If you've been listening, you know, because that's us lying to them. That's manipulative. It ain't the truth, so we shouldn't speak it yet. So it's also important to remember sometimes there's no benefit to trying to deal with someone constructively and have a good outcome. Because if you've done that 2 or 3 times, you might need to go back to the drawing board and say, what am I dealing with? Some individuals just aren't able to understand the benefits of healthy communication. They can't take responsibility for their behavior. They can't be solution focused. I have worked with individuals who the only agenda is for power. It's not for solving problems. It's not for things getting better. They're just not there yet. They may never be there, unfortunately. Moreover, when you're confronting an abusive person, it may have its costs. So be prepared for the possibility of fallout. Always be safe. Trust your spidey sense. Have your phone in your back pocket if you're going to go do this. Preferably do it in a public place if you need to. Those are the really toxic scenarios, and hopefully that's not what you're dealing with. If you are, that's a little bit of a different deal. But here's the thing. The only way you're going to know is to ask for what you need. In fact, I always tell people, you can pretty much figure out what people's emotional maturity really is when you tell them no, when you set a boundary, when you say, I'm so sorry, I can't do that. If you're dealing with someone who is extremely immature, you will be met with manipulation and acting out and shutting down and crazy. But you know what? Then that's where it is, right? Doing this in the moment probably is not going to happen right away. Like we've been talking about all the other stuff. It's okay. Go off by yourself, feel like crap, walk back in the room and say, hey, I'm really sorry. What I should have said is, I really can't go tomorrow night. I'm so glad you asked me, though. I do want to do things with you this week. It's just that tomorrow night I've got a conflict. Go back and heal it. Go back. Send the text message, send the email, leave a voicemail, face-to-face, whatever you feel like you have the courage to do. Do it as quickly as you can. I think that's really respectful of them. Clean it up. But don't be hard on yourself if you can't do it in the moment. This is some tough stuff. So today we talked about what assertiveness really looks like, some actual ways you can begin practicing being more assertive, and some of the benefits of being emotionally honest and firm and connecting in your relationships. I want to encourage you, if you need to, just keep replaying this episode as many times as you need to as you practice. Also, I've included a download of the assertive phrases that I mentioned earlier in the podcast so you can have that on hand and maybe add some of your own. If you're not already a tribe member, all you have to do to get those is to go to today's download on the show notes for episode 24 at www.ownitpowercast.com and sign up right there. If you're already a subscriber and signed up for the Tribe News, you will get that email to you once a week automatically. So, thanks for being here. I hope you can go grab more healthy ownership of you this week than you did last week. Remember, with assertiveness, it's practice, practice, practice. And the holidays are a perfect time, right? When places are more crowded and traffic is heavier. Practice. See how kind you can be. How you can ask for what you need in healthy ways. And remember, as always, pay it forward, keep focusing on you, and I'll see you next time.
We hope you took away some useful insights and tools you can begin using right away. If you did, please leave a positive review and share on your social media. Because could you imagine if everyone in your life really got it together? Remember, own it now, so you can really own it later.